Artlist.io.
Hello everyone, and we are live. We have a very special episode. This is the second time you might be seeing me today. Previously we were doing some live tournament coverage. Today we have a more educational session, and let's wait for some of you guys to come in to be talking
Music
about this here.
licensing reimagined.
Time hearing some tunes. Once you guys come in, drop a message in the chat. Tell me you guys are here, where you coming from, a little bit about yourself. Get rolling. Meantime, wait for a couple of you to come. We're going live on chat.com TV in 10 minutes or so.
Artlist.io.
Once you guys drop in, be sure to drop a comment in the chat, guys, for me to
Music licensing
to see you all here.
reimagined.
A very instructive session prepared here for you guys.
Artlist.io.
Today we're going to be talking about pawns in chess. Why? Because they're like the foundation of the game, the soul of the game,
Music licensing
said by Mr. Philador.
reimagined.
Meantime, I'll play a game to warm up.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
Thank you very much, man. I like it. It's from some Caribbean vibes.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
Wow. That's a very nice move if it's working. Why not take this? Wow.
Artlist.io.
Wow.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Trap my own queen.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Yeah, good game. Made it 96 was very nice idea. I completely forgot for this the C5. I played this opponent quite risky with this B5. It's too innovative.
Artlist.io.
Oh yeah, wow. That was a nice combination. Just take down G4, okay. 6 takes, I take 6. That was a nice game.
Music licensing reimagined.
Yeah, this one's tough. C5. All right. Interesting one.
Artlist.io.
So let's go back to analysis.
Music licensing reimagined.
So we're going live on 2 minutes. Hello my friend, we're not doing that today. We're doing some middle game analysis, talking about pawns, my friend. This is not the usual stream. This is not the usual stream. We're doing some brother. What are you doing, my friend? Go on from here. Don't spam the chat, man. Go on from here. Go come with us, Tribunus.
Artlist.io.
We're doing an educational stream about pawns in chess. Yes, any streamer here could play anybody and play blitz and talk. But we're gonna give some actual lessons here.
Artlist.io.
I'm International Master Alan-Safar Ramoutar from the Caribbean, and my goal here is to teach you guys. Everyone likes to play and it's fun, but to improve, you need to learn some real lessons here. And that's where I come in here. Caribbean Chess Master, Certified International Master,
Music licensing
Grandmaster.
reimagined.
Alright, I'm waiting to go live on chess.com TV, and then we will have a lot to discuss here today, my friends. This is a very important topic, a very underrated topic, a very not much discussed topic.
Artlist.io.
So guys, let's see who's joining in here. Very good. Alright, so we're now live on chess.com TV. So today, this is no ordinary kind of stream. As you guys may have seen today, what were most people doing? Most people were just quiet, not saying anything, and just playing some good old blitz. That's what everyone does. Everyone just plays blitz, they have fun, and you guys just watch that. But that's not the best way to improve here, guys. We're gonna come with some actual lessons, some actual secrets, some actual chess coaching advice. I want to give it to you guys in my style here. So as an international master here, and in fact, why you guys have an edge, why you guys have the best coach, is because I didn't come from these countries where chess was very popular. I became an international master on an island where nobody plays chess. So I really had to figure out what was the best methods for
Music
improvement
licensing reimagined.
and so on. So today we're going to be talking about pawns, and they are very important aspect in chess. Pawn play. Pawns are the worth 1 point. A lot of people say, pawns ain't worth nothing, small piece. What do we know? What do we need to know about them? But there are 8 of them, so we need to know how to deal with pawns, how to deal with pawn structure, how to manage them, the different because pawns are the foundation. They like when you're cooking something, you have like the onion, you have the garlic. So pawns are like the foundation of the position. So today we're going to learn about the foundation of the game of chess, the soul of chess. We're going to learn about pawns, the 8 pawns, and if we manage how we know how to use our pawns wisely, to know the different types of positions, it will greatly improve our game and understanding of chess. So that's what we're going to do today. Hello my friend Alex, where you coming from, my friend? Are you from the States? Where are you from, my friend? Thank you for tuning in. If we have anyone new here to the stream, I always like you should give yourself an introduction to yourself. Where you coming from, your chess goals. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yes, my friend, I am from Trinidad and Tobago. That is correct. What about you?
Artlist.io.
I am from Trinidad and Tobago. That is correct. International Master Alan-Safar Ramoutar. Are you from there as well, my friend? How did you know? But how did you know I was from there, my friend? Did you guess, or did you see it, or did you guess? That's very good, my friend. You're from USA, born in Spain. All right. Very, very nice. I played a lot of tournaments in USA. I used to play in the Chicago Open, the Dallas Open. So that's very good. That's very good. What's your goals in chess, my friend? Are you like a club player? A beginner? Okay, Spain is nice. I also played some chess there. Spain is very popular for chess tournaments every month there. So I'm very glad you tune in. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you. If you're new here, you're in for a treat, my friend, because this is one of the rare channels and streams where we go into actual chess improvement here. people these days, they just play chess, they blitz, they do this brain rot shorts. Like everyone likes YouTube shorts. They show some cheap checkmate, some cheap opening tricks. But here we have the real Caribbean play, man. We have the real kind of thing here. Hello, my friend. Where you coming from here? I'm International Master Alan-Safar Ramoutar here, coming from the Caribbean island of Trinidad and Tobago, and we want to get your game better. We're not here to play no blitz. Let me get out here. There's no brain rot content here. This is the real improvement here. This is the Caribbean tips. I am the man from the Caribbean. I am that man who come from this island with the sun blazing hot. I used to have a fairer complexion, but all the years in the sun has taken its toll here, because in the Caribbean we have this hot sun every day is like 35 degrees. Here we had the blazing hot sun. We didn't have no air condition growing up, so we were sweating. So that's why in my country, why I think you're in good hands, because I became an international master in only 5 years of learning to play chess on an island where nobody else plays chess. And I want to share my improvement to you. I want you guys to get better here. Alright, 1800, trying to get over. This session is for you. So hello, my friend, Mr. Dana, where you coming from? So today we're going to be talking about pawn play. We're going to be discussing different subjects about pawn play, the foundations of chess. So as I said, pawns are the foundation of the game. We need to know how to manage our pawns. There are 8 of them. We need to manage them wisely. So the first thing I'm going to start off with, basic example. We're going to be going from basic and then gradually getting a little bit more difficult. Alright. So what I want to talk about and enlighten you friends here today, let's talk about double pawns. First of all, what is the concept of double pawns? So double pawns happen when 2 pawns of the same color. So for example, if you're playing black, 2 of your pawns end up on the same file behind one another. So in this position, black has the pawns on c5 and c6. And they are double pawns. So I'm sure you heard about this concept before. It's definitely not the first time you're hearing about it. It's a very popular tip. However, not many times people actually go into depth to explain the concept. And let me tell you about the double pawns here. So you may ask, so what's the problem? So black has a pawn on c5, c6. So what? The 2 pawns here. Pawns are just 1 point. What does it really matter? However, in this simple position, the king and pawn endgame, what has happened is we can see black has 4 pawns on the queen side. So we can separate the board. We can draw a line from the d file. And well, let me draw my arrow. Oh God, what is this? So I draw my line here, and there's the queen side and there's the king side. So on the queen side, black has a so-called extra pawn here, and white has 3 pawns. However, because of the double pawns, you actually, black, it's like the material is equal, because these 3 pawns of white are neutralizing the 4 pawns of black, and that's because of the double pawns here. And meanwhile, white has 4 healthy pawns. Oh God, I'll put the blue. I don't know these colors too well, so forgive me guys. I'm trying, oh God, everything going, oh God. What stupidness is this? They have, oh God.
Artlist.io.
Yes, I get the blue, very good. So white has 4 pawns on the king side against 3. And white is winning here just because of the double pawns. In this situation here, the most simple basic form, white is winning because of the double pawns in the king and pawn endgame. White will honestly play e5, and then he's literally just going to advance his pawns all the way, and he's going to be able to get a pass pawn and make a queen here. So for example, e5. Now it would be a severe mistake if white takes here. Then he allows black to undouble his pawns, and now this is not so clear anymore here. This would be ill-advised as it undoubles the black pawns. So white could play e5. If black takes on c4, we simply take back. The black king can't go anywhere, and these 2 pawns neutralize it. So if black waits around with his king, we just go f5. If he plays g6 to stop f5, he can't stop us. We could go g4, and then he goes king c7. We advance with our pawn, and our 4 pawns are going against 3, and his double pawns ain't going nowhere. So what he could do, he could move his king. We come in, king e7. We come in with our king, and then you see the double pawns really obstruct him. And we literally go king f6, king e8, and we push our pawn, and it's very clear here that white is winning here. So this is the most basic form of why double pawns could be bad. Now let me show you another example here. to tell you that double pawns could actually be good in some cases. Let me paste this position here, my friends.
Reimagined.
Look at the games here. 1 second. Let's get this up here. Right. So let's show a simple example here that you will get in basically many openings here. So in the Roy Lopez, the Spanish opening, so we just saw that last example here. We saw black had double pawns, white won quite easily here. So if you may connect that in your head and you say, hold up, Alan, can't white in almost any opening just take the knight, give black the double pawns. However, it's not so simple at all, because here, if white was black, let's say Roy Lopez, black plays bishop c5. Let's say white is playing smart. He gives black the double pawns. Now the pawns on c6 and c7, they're now on the same file and they're double. However, double pawns are not always bad, because in this position they actually held black, and by recapturing with dc6, he actually opens up his bishop on c8, and he also opens up the file of the queen. And one thing to note, guys, is usually when there are more pieces on the board, these concepts with the double pawns become less relevant. As we saw in the king and pawn endgame, it was very critical as only the pawns and king remained. Here, however, there are more pieces. This is good for black here, because you see it doesn't obstruct black in any way. The pawns are doubled. However, white is unable to use his pawn majority here. So these double pawns actually go to c6 pawn, even control the center. And to show you guys, let's look at another example here about the double pawns. How do I get a game, my friends? We need to learn. Let's go to analysis board. So let's say after e4, let's look at some positions with the double pawns. So for example, let's say in this opening here, black plays pawn to d6, and white takes the opportunity to give the bishop to give the double pawns. Now, one common strategy of white here in this opening, like a lot of opening strategies, are actually based on the playing against double pawns. So white gives black the double pawns here, and his strategy is he claims that, okay, black has the double pawns here, and these pawns, while they may not be easy for white to target, they kind of obstruct black. Here's why. So let's say white usually plays f4 here. The strategy of white taken here is because black has the double pawns on the queen side, white is able to proceed on the king side actually. Why? Because white can't proceed on the king side because black has a weakness on the queen side, which is the double pawns. So white is not afraid if he goes to the queen side. If he goes to the king side, black can't do nothing on the queen side because he has the double pawns, he has this illness, he's sick. Double pawns could be like an illness. Let's say f4, let's say black plays knight f6, the game continues, white plays knight f3, black has to put his bishop here. Why? Because already you see after e6, this is not looking too healthy. Look at these double pawns. Let's see it look visually appealing as well. Let's say bishop e7, white could even play e5, and then if the pawns become isolated like this, then they are quite easy to pick off like this. So black would not want that at all. So black usually plays like g6, white plays d3, bishop g7, white castles, black castles here, and white goes ahead for the king side attack. And one of the problems is after rook b8, white could actually just play b3, and because the pawns are doubled, the white queen side is completely secure. Everything defends each other, and black can't play c4. He can't play a5, a4, because we could play a4 and our knight controls it. And if he plays d5, then this pawn will become weak. And white could simply play e5, knight a4, and this pawn becomes weak here. So Alex, my friend, and my fellow subscribers here, do you all understand the concept of double pawns a little bit better after these examples? Tell me, Alex, Mr. Alex Sanchez, did you get it here? Did you learn something? Were you enlightened, my friend? So guys, today anyone that's joining in new, we're not doing any garbage blitz, any speed run like that. We're doing some real educational chess here. We're looking at pawn playing chess, with pawns are the foot soldiers. Pawns are the foundation of chess. There are 8 of them, so we need to know how to use them well. So my friends, drop in the chat. What did you all think about those examples? And if you kind of understand double pawns a bit more, so double pawns are individual here. For example, in some positions, you really need to assess how they affect the entire position. A bad pawn structure, sometimes like here, it impacts the whole position because black doesn't have too much play on the queen side and white has a free hand on the king side. That's a little bit about double pawns. Now that's one type of pawns. And now my friends, I came with everything here. You know, I came like the full, well, it's an international serving here. There's different kinds of meals here we have here. We don't just have a double pawn. Now I want to talk about isolated pawns. This is a good one here. You guys in for a real Caribbean treat here. This is the real thing here, man. So, alright. Paste it in here, my friends. Get a new one here. What do you guys think about the music? You all like the music? Is it too loud? Should I put it louder?
Artlist.io.
So now I want to talk about isolated pawns. What is an isolated pawn? So an isolated pawn is a pawn that has no friendly pawn on any neighboring files next to it. So it's basically like you ever heard about that neighbor or this guy in the neighborhood? He doesn't like any neighbors. He just like he has his house. He doesn't have any neighbors. He didn't want no neighbors coming next to him. And he has his own territory here. And if he's getting robbed or something, he doesn't have any neighbors, so they can't defend him. It's the same thing with isolated pawns here. You see the pawn on d4, no other pawn could defend it. It's isolated. It's alone. And this really is not looking too good. No other pawn could defend it from the side. And why are they usually a weakness? Because as we know, they don't have support by other pawns. And usually when you want to defend a piece or support a piece, it's very good if it could be done with a pawn, because a pawn is a very good defender, because a pawn is worth 1 point. When you defend your pieces with pieces of higher value, such as a queen and a knight, for example, a queen is an offensive piece. So if a queen is stuck to defending a piece, it lowers the queen's value. So that's usually why pawns are good to carry out defensive roles. However, the isolated pawn can be protected by another pawn. So why they are weakness? Because the opponent, usually when you have an isolated pawn, the opponent has a very clear plan to go after and target your isolated pawn. And isolated pawns, they are permanent weaknesses. So in this position here, we see, for example, the isolated pawn on d4. Black managed to gang up on it. He brought his rook's queen full force, and he's just going to take it on the next move. So here we see that example of a weak isolated pawn. Let me now move forward to the other example here.
Licensing reimagined.
Alright, we're going in here with another example. Now we're going to be talking about good isolated pawns. So guys, drop in the chat what you all think about the coverage here. If you all have any questions about the positions or anything like that. Does anyone have any questions here? How are you all taking any material? Drop it in the chat. Alright, so now I want to talk about good isolated pawns. So here we see that in chess, usually chess is not such a simple, straightforward game. Principles can be twisted, they can be differently applied and have different concepts in different positions. So here the pawn on d4, let me tell you something very carefully here. This pawn on d4 is isolated. Didn't Alan-Safar, didn't you just say in the last example, isolated pawns are bad, you shouldn't have it? What do you do with the isolated pawns? Here, however, the isolated pawn is actually a strength. Let me check something one second, guys. Right, so here the isolated pawns are actually a strength. The isolated pawn.
Artlist.io.
Why? Because it can't be protected by any other pawn. However, you see, the pawn is well defended at the moment. And in addition, we have because the pawn is isolated and there are no other neighboring pawns, we have the open C and e files. Yeah, the pawn on d4 also supports a potential knight jump e5 and an outpost for a knight on c5. So here the isolated pawn is good. Black can't so easily attack it, and the pawn supports white. It has takes more space, supports the e5 square, supports the e5 square, the c5 square, and we have the open c and e files. Meanwhile, black is still not developed here. So here the isolated pawn is actually a good concept. Hello my friend, where you coming from, my friend? Today we're doing a very important concept here. We're doing a middle game masterclass on pawn mastery in chess. So we know that in chess we have each side has 8 pawns. So I believe here I want to bring some very instructive content as an international master myself. I don't want to just randomly play blitz and don't explain nothing. I want to actually teach you guys concept so everyone who's watching me can actually improve their game. Then when you play your games, start crushing your opponents. When you say Alan-Safar from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, help me. So where are you from, my friend? Alright. So here the isolated pawn on d4 is actually good, because it helps white control e5, c5, we have the open c and e files, and it gives white a little bit more space here. So as we know in chess, it's not so black and white. You can't always say the isolated pawn is big and bad and that's it. Here, this is a good example. So now let's move on to another concept here. I want to talk about backward pawns now. How many of you all heard about the term backward pawn in chess? Raise your hand if you know what backward pawn is in chess. Did any of you all hear about that? Remember guys, if you're watching the stream, come across to YouTube and comment over there. I'm reading the chat on YouTube, not on chess.com. And if you're here for the first time, remember to subscribe. You know, I'm an international master, small content creator here. I'm truly trying to make some instructive content. So any subscribers truly appreciate it here. We're going to help you guys get to the next level. Alright, here, so let's place a new example here. Bringing the real thing for you guys here. Right, so what I want to talk about now is backward pawns in chess. So what is a backward pawn? Backward pawn in this position is the pawn on d6. A backward pawn is a pawn that is behind the pawns on the files, that is on the squares adjacent to it, and the pawn cannot move forward safely. So for example, the pawn on d6, it's a backward pawn because it's slightly behind the e5 pawn, as you can see, and the pawn can't just easily move up to d5 with its control. A key characteristic is the backward pawn here cannot be defended. It's by another pawn, only by pieces, and usually the problem of backward pawns, it makes the whole position sick for black. Black has to constantly tender to this weakness on d6, and another key advantage, the square in front of the backward pawn, usually white has an outpost here on d5. So here white has a good knight versus this bad bishop on e7 here. So you see that this would be suffering for black here just because of the backward pawn. If this pawn was anywhere else, for example on c6, c7, for example, generally that black would be completely fine here. So the backward pawn here makes black truly suffer. So let's move on to another example here. Now I want to talk about good backward pawns. So here we see a bad backward pawn. As we're doing today, a masterclass on pawn playing chess and mastering these different types of intricacies. So that way when you play your games and you want to improve, you notice these things, understand these concepts, and you're able to use them in your own games here. So if anyone's dropping in, drop a comment in the chat, show some support, tell me how you find the material is. So I'm International Master Alan-Safar Ramoutar, and we're bringing you here some real kind of teaching here. We're not bringing random blitz or anything, we're doing some real teaching here. So what I want to show you guys now, we saw example of bad backward pawns. Pawn on d6, it cannot be defended by another pawn, can't move forward. It's a backward pawn, and we have the d5 outpost for white as well. So this ain't looking good for black, backward pawn. So now, are there any situations where black or someone could have a bad backward pawn? I want to bring your attention to this position here. Guys, drop in the chat. Can you identify which pawn here is the backward pawn? Can you identify it, guys? Guys, drop in the chat which pawn is the backward pawn here for black. Let's see which one of you all can answer correctly. Which pawn of black is the double pawn? I'll give you guys 1 minute here to think.
Music licensing reimagined.
Answer me which pawn of black is a backward pawn.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Guys, can you all identify in the chat? Question I have for you. For black here, we're looking at for black. Which pawn of black is the backward pawn? Who can answer this question? Drop it in the chat. Which pawn of black is the backward pawn? Today we're doing mastering pawn play, learning about different types of pawn structures, different types of ideas with using our pawns, and that way once we master these foot soldiers, it will help us much easier coordinate our entire army. So what will you guys see here? Alright, so the backward pawn is the pawn on e6. And what's funny is we spoke about double pawns. Aha! You were close, my friend. Maybe you tuned in a little bit late, but before, what I was saying is that backward pawns, because we're doing a master class on pawn play today. I'm an international master here and we're going to bring you some useful tips. The backward pawn is the e6 pawn here in this position here. A backward pawn is a pawn that cannot be defended by any other pawns. And that pawn is the pawn on e6. The pawn on c7, it looks like it's backward, but when it moves, for example, the c6, it will simply be defended by the pawn on b7. However, the pawn on e6 has no theoretical chance to be defended by another pawn. So this is the backward pawn in position. And what's funny is the pawns on e6 and e5 actually doubled. And we were talking that in the last example, I'm not sure if you saw it, that double pawns could be bad, they could be good, and we were talking about that backward pawns were bad. However, having the double pawns here and the backward pawn are actually good for black here, because this pawn on e6 actually controls the d5 square, so white can't drop any knight there. It controls the f5 square, and the black rook has an open line, so sometimes black can even like move his knight to h5, open up the rook, play knight f4 and start a sort of attack. So that's why these backward pawns, they could be useful. A key aspect to realize is the backward pawn here. It can't be defended by any other pawns. However, white cannot easily attack it. For example, it's deep in the black camp, so black usually could defend it like this. There's nothing to worry about. So that was a note about backward pawns. Now, I want to talk about connected pawns here. Let me drop a very good example for you guys here.
Reimagined.
So we have a quite simple example here. So by the way, my friend, where are you coming from? Anytime we have a new viewers here, we like to get to know them a bit more. Tell me where you coming from, what country, what's your chess rating, if you have any goals. If you're new to the channel, we welcome you here. We appreciate any new subscribers here, because I'm International Master Alan-Safar Ramoutar. I'm the #1 player from the English-speaking Caribbean. I'm a professional coach and second and chessable author here with 5 courses. And we post a lot of instructive content, so we appreciate every new subscriber. We're trying to grow. Very nice, my friend. Very nice.
Music
Are you from
licensing reimagined.
Stockholm, Gothenburg? Which city? And I'm guessing you knew about the classic Italian. So if I had to guess the ELO, are you like 1500, 1600? What rating are you staying at there, my friend? Are you a club player? What kind of chess are you playing?
Artlist.io.
I guessed it. You see, I good. I should be a geo guesser instead of a chess player. All right. So now what I want to talk about. See, I guess everything, my friend. So what I want to talk about
Music
now
licensing
is
reimagined.
connected pawns. Now a lot of people don't know this concept. They think that connected pawns are like pawns are together, but connected pawns are pawns that are of the same color, white or black pawns that are next to each other or on adjacent files. So they support each other and they're stronger together than alone. So why it's good to have your pawns connected? Because they protect you from any sort of attacks here and they're less likely to be isolated or targeted. So for example, in this position, black wants to play queen takes b2 mate, but because white's pawns are connected, he has the simple move b3, and you see how the connected pawns work together. b3 is very solid now, and it's very clear black has no attack or anything. Meanwhile, black is missing just one pawn, but his whole king is again mated because of that g file is open. Mate is coming. So that's why connected pawns are very important here. That's why sometimes if you have these double pawns, it could be horrendous, especially around your king. You don't want to have any bad double pawns. Say if you have like an extra set of double pawns, let me show you a position. For example, in the Karukan, there's the main line after knight c3, d4, knight takes f4. Knight f6 is very popular, and black accepts the double pawns here. However, his bishop is open. He has the open e line and has quick, easy play. Let's say white plays like c3 here, with the goal to get the bishop to d3 and the pawn is not hanging. Black goes like bishop d6, bishop d3, castles, 92.
Artlist.io.
And these double pawns here actually help black's king. It's a different story if his g7, if his g pawn was missing, then this king is very bad. But however, this pawn structure is very solid for black. Black's king is very safe here. So black has nothing to worry about at all. So let's move on. Alright. So do you have any goals? Do you play chess seriously in classical chess, or you just play for fun? If you play classical chess, this stream will help you definitely with any kind of chess here, but it's good to know what kind of goals our subscribers have here. Now I want to talk about a very important topic here. A very important subject here.
Artlist.io.
So guys, how are you all enjoying the stream? How are you all enjoying the lecture here? Let me guys know in the chat how you all are processing all the information here. Do you guys understand everything here? Do you guys understand the topics here? Is there anything too difficult?
Music licensing reimagined.
Just for fun, but try to improve. That's the best way to play chess, for fun. Sometimes when people play professional chess, they take it too seriously and they don't enjoy the game anymore. They get very stressed out by it and then it becomes no longer fun. It's always good when you play chess for fun. And anytime you improve, you use some new traps, some new knowledge. It's going to be fun even if you don't win. It's going to take the game for fun. So guys, I have a very interesting concept to show now here. I think you guys are going to like this one here. I'm going to talk about pawn chains. So my friend, you're going to really benefit from this kind of knowledge here. So what I want to discuss here. What is a pawn chain? A pawn chain. A pawn chain is a diagonal line of pawns where each pawn except the backmost pawn, which is called the base, is protected by a pawn behind it on an adjacent file. So the chain points toward the opponent, meaning the front pawn with the head. This is the head of the pawn chain. So we have this like pawn chain here from b2 to e5, a diagonal line of pawns that all protect each other except for the base of the pawn chain b2
Artlist.io.
that lead toward the opponent here. So e5 is known as the head, b2 is known as the base. So the head is closer to the enemy army, meanwhile the base is very close to our army. It's the backmost pawn in the chain. So this is the b2 pawn, is the weakest point in the base. So today guys, we're doing pawn structure and chess. We're mastering pawn play. Now people may laugh, so why do I need this? This is not fun. I want to see some blitz. Come on, you send me challenge, play with me, let's do some blitz. No, guys. I am from the Caribbean. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm an international master. And I will feel like a criminal if I just on every stream play blitz and don't explain anything to you guys. Maybe that's what you want. Maybe you guys want me just to play blitz, to shake my head and play blitz. But I am not. I wanted you guys to learn. I want to pass on some unique concepts here, guys. So you ain't getting that from me. Thank you, my friend. And that's a little misconception with a lot of people. Is a problem with society today. The attention spans are short. People like to watch these 1 minute shorts, these reels. And as a true professional chess coach, it's very sad to see that people are getting stupider each year. So I am trying to stop that. I'm trying to save that. I want to bring back the real chess learning here.
Artlist.io.
And chess.com is a good place for that. There's a lot of good content on chess.com. Chess.com is a great platform. It depends how you use it. There are many courses on chess.com. You could do puzzles here. Blitz is good and fun. That's very good. I play Blitz too, but you need to do that in moderation. Aha, you play the French defense, my friend. Oh, my friend, let me tell you something. I play the French defense as well, but I have some on and off experiences with the French. The French has served me well for some games. However, some games, let me tell you, that C8 bishop, whew, sometimes it's a problem. I like to play the Caro-Kann, which I call the improved French defense. But the French is a good fighting opening, and it's objectively, it has less theory, less lines to memorize, and it's true, it's a big fighting opening for black. I like the French. So e5 here. So one of our subscribers, new subscribers, big shout out to the man from Gothenburg. He plays the French defense. So this guy is an expert here. He knows these positions inside out. So yeah, the pawn on e5 here is the head of the chain. So the pawn chains are strong because they support each other. The base point we know is the b2 is the weakest point. The head is the strongest point. It's like the warrior. It controls the strongest points in front of it. And because of the pawn chain, we actually know where white should be based in his play. Because of the pawn chain, white should be attacking on the king side. With the pawn chain, it points towards the king side. So white, or because of, if white understands this about pawn chain, he knows he has to play on the king side here. And usually black plays on the queen side. Now this is why we understand concepts in chess, is because actually all opening theory is based on these concepts. As you know, my friend Mr. Zaid, queen b6 is usually the main move here, and the main idea is black is trying to undermine the pawn chain here. So this in the French defense is based on these pawn chain ideas. I'm glad you knew a bit about it here. Now I want to talk a simple topic here. But I have to mention it here. We might have some beginners who don't understand it too well. So of course I don't want those guys to feel left out. But here we cater to everyone. We want everyone to improve. So here I want to talk about a very simple concept very briefly. I want to talk about pawn break. So now guys, some of you may know this stuff already, but it's always good to review the basics, because they are what build up the harder concepts in chess. So even I, as an international master, find it quite useful to review some basic rules from time to time. Yes, that is true. That is true. Yes, that's why you need to know the concepts of the position. A lot of people make the problem of playing openings, but they don't study the openings. They study the theory of the openings. But when you play some opening, you should know the positions, you should know the pawn structure, you should know the typical ideas and maneuvers. So these days people don't do that. They just learn some course and learn the theory and that's it. But that's not how you should study openings. But thankfully on chess.com, partnered with Chessable, there are many great courses that explain even the middle games. I have 5 courses on Chessable. I have 2 courses on openings, one on the Scotch Gambit for white, one on how to beat the Sicilian defense with 2 knight c3, brilliant course. And I have a course on how I became an IM in only 5 years from learning how to move the pieces, preparation and psychology. And one the great Victor Korchnoi. Gonna have like 2 more courses coming out in the middle of the year. So guys, if you want to support me, want to improve your chess, be sure to check out my courses on Chessable, also available here on chess.com under courses. So continuing here, I want to talk about pawn break. So what is a pawn break? A pawn break is a move where you advance a pawn to usually challenge or break your opponent's pawn structure. And usually the pawn break is used to open lines for your pieces and create more space. So it's often used to generally free your position if your pawns are blocked, and they're very important for creating attacking chances in the center. For example, white here plays pawn to d4, and a well-timed pawn break is opening up the bishop, he's opening up the center, challenging the black center, but more importantly, he opens up the bishop on c1. So this here is a very simple concept, but it's good to know the theory and why behind it. So guys, drop in the chat, how are you all enjoying these positions here? Some of you all are quiet here. I want to hear from more of you guys. How are you all enjoying this lecture today? Do you find this instructive? Guys, if you have any topics you would like to see in upcoming streams, you could suggest me some topics and I would definitely consider it here from our subscribers here. Do you all have any topics that you would like to see generally, guys? What would you all like to suggest? Now, the next thing I want to talk about here is a quite important principle.
Artlist.io.
What I want to talk about here, guys. So if you're watching the stream from chess.com, be sure to come across to YouTube and drop a big fat subscribe there on YouTube and notification button to always be around for the content here.
Music licensing reimagined.
Guys, let's get going. We have a big lecture here today. This is instructive things. Are you guys not entertained from the Caribbean International Master giving a lecture on pawn play and mastering the foundation of chess, the soul of chess? The pawns are the soul of the chessboard. You guys need to know that very well. So here, what I want to discuss, a very simple concept that may sound simple and stupid, but sometimes chess could be simple and stupid. Pawns never move back. You heard that right. Now knights could move back, any other piece could move back where it came from. However, the pawns can't go back where they came from. So that's why whenever you move a pawn, you need to be very careful, because when you move that pawn, it can't return where it came from, guys. So if that pawn was serving a good purpose and you moved it forward, it can't come back where it came from. And here in this position, many players make this move pawn to g5. They make this move pawn to g, but they completely forget they're opening up the king, and this pawn cannot come back. And you'll see that in this position, this g5 is a weakening move, and a lot of people, maybe they trust like the engine and the computer will suggest moves like this. However, as humans, these moves are very risky. I don't like to open up my king like this here. Thank you very much, my friend. I hope you truly enjoyed the lecture. You subscribe and you stay tuned for more streams, because we'll be streaming regularly and I post regular content on YouTube here. So I hope this was very beneficial to you and to see you around more often, my friend. Let's talk about another concept. Now I want to make a little bit note
Artlist.io.
about pawn structure here. We had real guys. How do you all like the music here? Nobody said anything about the music.
Music licensing reimagined.
I get some water, guys. Ooh. But my friend from Sweden, I'm actually not too far from Sweden. I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, but I now live in Serbia. So S for Serbia, S for Sweden. 2 S's. Alright, so now I want to talk about pawn structure. So I generally want to make a short discussion on what is pawn structure. So pawn structure refers to how the pawns are placed on the board, and unlike the other pieces, as we know, each side has 8 pawns in front of their pieces, which can be called the foot soldiers of the game. They are usually the first to advance and set the tone of the battlefield. As you'll see later in this discussion, there are different types of pawn structures that we believe are important for you to understand. So guys, this material here that I'm showing you is a kind of little secret preview of one of my chessable courses I'm working on. I don't want to drop too much information on you guys here. I'm telling you, we have big projects coming up. So generally, I want to discuss things like pawn structure. For example, even we see it in the openings. After pawn to e4, black plays e5. This is known as a symmetrical pawn structure. Symmetrical pawn structures are generally known to be more calm in nature, and they're not too fighting and tense. However, asymmetrical pawn structures, for example, Sicilian defense, which clearly we see black is not copying white. Here, black uses a side pawn to control the center, the famous Sicilian. This is an asymmetrical pawn structure, which usually means both sides are taking different parts of setting up the pawn formation. So this is going to lead to like a big fighting game here. So how you manage your pawn structure generally dictates the tone of the game. If you have a symmetrical pawn structure, usually the game is more calm, more easygoing. However, the pawn structure is asymmetrical, then for sure you could bet on like a complex game. So guys, that was basically we're coming close to the end of the pawn structure lecture. So what do you guys think? Does anyone have any questions from the material they just witnessed? So we had a lecture here on pawn structure. Do you guys have any questions about what you all witnessed? Feel free to ask me some questions.
Music licensing reimagined.
Feel free to ask me some questions, guys, about what you just saw.
Artlist.io.
Does anyone have any questions, guys? Does anyone have any questions for an international master?
Music licensing reimagined.
If not, I will go ahead and play some Puzzle Rush for fun, guys. Telling you guys, I like Puzzle Rush. One second.
Music licensing reimagined.
Doing some puzzle rush here.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Oh, this just made. What is the best way to break up one structure? Ask one of our subscribers. Now, let me show you an example here. Let me just do one. So generally, to break up pawn structure, you have to attack the base of the pawn structure, my friend. So we were talking about, to go to a quick analysis here. Let me,
Artlist.io.
Yeah, so for example, in the French defense, for example, like in the Philidor, usually to break a pawn structure, you have to like use what's known as a pawn break. So in the Philidor, opponent white uses the pawn break d4 here to break the pawn structure. That's the most common way. You see, like even in the Sicilian, this is technically known as breaking a pawn structure. And in positions like the French defense, after c3, knight c6, knight f3, queen b6, black is trying to break the pawn structure by attacking the base of the pawn structure. So that's the two concepts. As you'll see, black usually pressures b2, he pressures d4, takes, and a lot of times later he will play f6 as well to try to break the pawn structure. So I hope that helped your question, my friend. Let me try to do another puzzle rush.
Music licensing reimagined.
Get this done. Takes.
Artlist.io. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
What's this?
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Strange puzzle. Huh. What is this?
Artlist.io.
Bishop takes h2, king h2, knight. No. There's no knight. Bishop h2, king h2, simply queen h4, king g1, and knight g4. That wasn't hard. Thank you, my friend. I'm glad it was helpful. If you're new to the channel, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where you coming from? Tell me where you're coming from around your chess rating. And if you're not subscribed, do us a great favor if you go ahead and subscribe. And you could suggest some possible future topics that you'd like to see. Today was about, we did a lecture on pawn structure, pawn play. So if you could go ahead and if you missed something, you just rewind the stream. I'll be posting it anyways. Hopefully tomorrow on Sunday. I'll be posting it as a video. But today was a lecture about pawn structure, and as an international master from the Caribbean, #1 player from the English-speaking Caribbean, I always like to bring some instructive content. So if we had some new subscribers today, we truly appreciate it. And please tell me a bit about yourself. I need to avenge myself one more puzzle rush.
Artlist.io.
Oh, it took too long. Skills on the mouse are a bit slow.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
Run out of time. Alright guys, so we're coming to end to the stream here today. This is the second stream for the day. We had a previous stream where we provided live full coverage about some Grandmaster events. So guys, does anyone have any questions here before we end the stream? I'd like to answer some questions. Thank you all for watching today. I hope you all truly learned a lot about pawn structure and feel much more confident about different types of pawn structures and handling pawns in general. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions for me? Feel free to ask any chess questions. If you have any book recommendations, any study plans, a common question I get is what should I be studying? Does anyone have any questions for me? Please go ahead and ask.
Artlist.io.
Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions for an international master? We had a stream on pawn structure, pawns, mastering pawns in chess, and we're closing off there to come to the end of the stream. Does anyone have any questions for me before we go? Let me know in chat.
Artlist.io.
The questions I answered on YouTube. I don't check chess.com TV. So remember guys, I'm an international master from Trinidad and Tobago. International master Alan-Safar Ramoutar, #1 player from the English speaking Caribbean. So if you want to improve your game, if you want to take your game to the next level, then you've come to the right YouTube channel here. We're gonna get to that next level. We're gonna help you with all those goals.
Reimagined.
And we definitely want you guys to break new barriers for sure. So definitely guys, we want you to break new barriers. We want you to improve your game. And we're not just focusing on blitz or anything. We have true instructive content. So with that, if you want to improve your game further, you can check out my courses on Chessable, or you can become a chess.com affiliate by checking the link in the description. So that guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Special shout out to the guy from Sweden. And I don't know how to pronounce your username, Mr. So. I will call you. Special shout out to you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you all truly learned something about pawn structure and could use this in your games. Thank you very much guys, and we'll see you in the next stream.